Yes, indeed. Welcome into another episode of Total Hockey Now on the Total Hockey Now YouTube channel. Of course, you can also find us over on Twitter/X and Facebook, also at Total Hockey Now. I am at Pucking Thoughts, Adam Bernard. The man over to my left, at Ant Rivera 86, Anthony Rivera. And fresh off the season debut of the Slap Shots podcast, at Fuzzy Chris 91, Christopher Merez. Fellas, listen, and anybody watching, I know it's the opening night of the NFL season. We're all excited too. Chiefs, Ravens should be a good game. I've got Lamar Jackson going in a dynasty league, so but we're here to talk hockey today. We're about a month away from the season right now, which is very nice to say. We are in September. Preseason hockey is less than 3 weeks away at this point for some teams, so we're getting there. It's good.
Yeah, you said the magic word of preseason hockey. When you know the NFL season's about to begin, preseason hockey's only a few weeks away. Excited for that. Hockey's just right around the corner, and we got you all covered.
I'm not going to lie. I was watching, here's how much I want to get my fix. I was watching Ivan Demidov today play in the KHL because it was at 10 o'clock Eastern. So I caught a couple of glimpses on that. I may or may not have found a link on the internet that helped me to do that, but I'm ready for it. Yes, football is back. Yes, all of that fun stuff and whatnot, but let's not get distracted. It's like hockey season's around the corner here. That's what we're here for.
What we're here for. We've been doing odds or fantasy rankings throughout the summer here. Today we'll be looking at the Metropolitan division odds and maybe some playoff odds there too. Mock draft number 7 of the summer. That is a get locked in for at least through October 3rd here, and then it'll be fantasy hockey season. So we're doing what we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more mock drafts to go. So not too heavy.
Yeah, people are loving mocky season. I mean, we're seeing it in the results in our views. People are loving it. People are joining in, which is awesome to see. What's up, State of Survival? How you doing, my friend?
Welcome in.
Great to have everybody on here. And I love the mock drafts, man. It's so much fun. It really is.
Yeah, and we'll get to that in about a half hour. So if you tune in for that, stay tuned, hang out. Other business to get to first. And, speaking of other business to get to first, obviously, any sort of hockey podcast, whether you're coming on the air today or in the last few days, the lead story is not a good one. Obviously, we don't need to rehash all the details of what happened with Johnny Gaudreau and his brother Matthew. And it's tough to add anything that hasn't already been said at the respective candlelight vigils in Columbus, Calgary. They're going to have stream the memorial service on Monday at noon Eastern on the Flames and Blue Jackets websites. The thing that keeps coming to me, at least, is the kind of person that he was off the ice. Everybody knows what he did on the ice, and his overtime goals in the playoffs, the 40-goal season he had a few seasons ago. One of the things I caught was Daryl Sutter was a guest, I don't know, like the Blue Jays studio show or something like that, with his son, and they were talking about Johnny Gaudreau. And sometimes during these interviews, they show B-roll of highlights and stuff like that. And while they were doing that, every time Daryl Sutter was shown talking to Johnny Gaudreau, there was a smile on Daryl Sutter's face. Daryl Sutter doesn't use those smile muscles often. So that just goes to tell you something right there, that anytime even he was interacting with him on a hockey level, he still had to smile, because that's just the kind of guy Johnny Gaudreau was, based on what everybody has said. Just our condolences to everyone who's been affected by this loss, family, fans of teams he's played for, people that have looked up to him. It's a crappy situation all around. And I don't want to get too far on this other tangent, but man, there really is just no excuse to get behind the wheel once you've had, once you've had more than one, whatever it is, you shouldn't, there's too many alternative options nowadays for that to be an acceptable excuse. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and like you said, I don't want to give that person any light on this show here. Going back to Johnny Gaudreau, when your name is Johnny Hockey, you've made it in the National Hockey League. And the fact that we lost him, as well as his brother, we don't want to forget his brother in all of this. The two of them together, the whole story, obviously is tragic and very upsetting. I do remember, and I talked about it with you guys off air, when he was going to free agency, the hope was that he would come to New Jersey and be a Devil, come home. And obviously he went to Columbus, and he really affected a lot of lives there in Columbus, on a team that has struggled since his arrival. Not obviously not of his doing at all, but just to see the fans and what they did for him there, and not only there, but just outside of in Calgary, what they did outside of the
outside of Saddle Dome.
Outside of Saddle Dome. I was about to say the Silver Dome, but outside of Saddle Dome, what an amazing tribute. Great job by not only the fans of Calgary, but Columbus, but the entire hockey community coming together as one. You see it in other sports too. At Citi Field, they honored him and had him on the big screen as well there. So just the whole entire hockey community, the sports world, remembering the life of Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's obviously tough, right? And like I said, right, you guys have reiterated well. There's not much you can add at this point. It's tragic. It's unfortunate. It should never happen, right? Drunk driving is one of those things that is 100% preventable in 2024. So it's quite sad, but it's, again, there's like how it's tough, especially it's tough for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Like, we make fun of this team for who they are, but they've gone through their fair share of heartaches. This isn't the first time tragedy has struck them, unfortunately. And that, and Zach Werenski said it best in the vigil yesterday. Johnny Hockey went to Columbus when not many people really wanted to go to Columbus. So it is sad. It is unfortunate, and it's been a tough week to be just a hockey fan, watching all the tributes, and just I haven't been able to spot anybody who has anything negative to say about Johnny Gaudreau. So that just speaks about the type of, not just hockey player that he is, but the type of person that he is as well.
Yeah, if you know a Blue Jackets, Flames, BC fan, give him a pat on the shoulder this week. I don't want to say buy him a beer, because obviously that's not, and that doesn't make sense in this scenario per se. But just let him know you're there for him. Be their support. But yeah, so tough to transition away from that, but getting back to things on the ice, and the way to segue is that this deal came down late last week, but out of respect of everything we just talked about, the Oilers and Leon Draisaitl, and kudos for everybody who kept the lid on it, and because I'm sure there were people that knew it was coming and didn't take the bait and try to break the story of Leon Draisaitl signing an 8-year extension worth $112 million. He is now the top salary cap hit in NHL history at $14 million. The new contract, the second richest deal in total dollars in league history, begins with the 2025-2026 season and runs through 2033. So, Edmonton's chances for the Stanley Cup go through directly two people. It's Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. That's not changing. That's something that's consistent, at least.
Yeah, Connor. Leon Draisaitl. I'll say this before I, send Oilers Nation into an absolute tailspin here. He deserves his money. His $14 million. Like some people think he took a discount. I mean, this is one of the highest cap percentages, so I don't think he took a discount. I am not on the side of players taking discounts. Like, you get to be a hockey player for such a short period of time. Like, go get your bag. You know what I mean? Injuries can happen. Careers can get derailed. Right? Life is precious. Go out, get your bag. He has earned it. That being said, the Oilers have now committed a ton of money to Leon Draisaitl, which again, he has deserved. But they have other issues on that team. And Connor McDavid is going to be due for money. He can negotiate his deal as of next year. And if 14 is the bar for Leon, I'm assuming 16 is the bar for McDavid. And that is, again, which he has earned. Like, if I'm Oilers, I'm signing him a blank check, man. Whatever you want. Just put the number on this line. We've already pre-signed it. Go ahead. But it is hard to build a competitive hockey team when you're going to have about $30 million tied up to two players, because the Oilers have a defense core that is absolutely terrible, right? It's not very good defensively. We know that. We don't know what we're getting in Stuart Skinner. Well, we also don't know Jeff Skinner for that as well. But there is like there's a lot of money that's going through there. Evan Bouchard's an RFA. He's going to need money. You're talking about like $9-10 million for a defenseman, which is probably never a great idea. So the Oilers are going to have to make some choices here. And I don't see this team doing very well over the next few years. Again, through no fault of Leon Draisaitl or Connor McDavid or any of the boys who deserve the money. Go get it. You've earned it. But sometimes, here's the analogy I use. Like sometimes you have those gumball machines and they only take a quarter. Well, in Canada, we have loonies, right? So we get a coin that's $1, right? But if you try to put a loonie in a gumball machine that only takes quarters, it doesn't really work. The value's there, but sometimes you need 4 quarters to get what you need here. And I feel like they have a lot of dollars, but they need quarters to fill out the rest of this lineup. So I'm interested to see how management and everything kind of puts all that together.
Yeah, in the past couple weeks, we were talking about the Oilers offer sheets, the Blues offer sheets to Broberg and Holloway, and how the Oilers declined. And this is probably a big reason why, because they wanted to get Leon Draisaitl locked in. They wanted their 2 best players to be signed, sealed, and delivered. And that's what they got for, the time being now. And I would assume that they were never going to let, Draisaitl get out of their sights, especially with, the way the rest of the team is right now. Losing one of them would be a blow. So look, we'll see what happens. This was still the same team that we talked about last week, taking a step back, even with Draisaitl in the lineup. So nothing changes, right? Like, they signed him to the deal. He's going to be there long-term, but the prospects of them making it back to the Stanley Cup and what we talked about last week, that doesn't change. I still see them not being that team that they were last year.
My thing with Edmonton is I think that, with those 2 guys as your cornerstones, you can definitely compete to a level, but you're probably never going to be in a position to make any improvements at the deadline. That's going to be part of the problem there, is that you're, like Chris pointed out earlier, the cap situation that Edmonton has put themselves in. I repeat, Edmonton has put themselves in, because it's not like Chris pointed out before, people saying, he should have taken a hometown discount. It'd be like Tom Brady. Tom Brady had his rings by the time he started getting around the hometown discounts. If McDavid and Draisaitl already got their names on the cup and you want to say, okay, now we're trying to build something in a dynasty, so maybe you take a little less money, I can buy into that. McDavid may never lift the cup. Draisaitl, they got to get their contracts. They got to get paid. Once you've got winning, then you can start talking about, all right, how much money do you really need? Leave a couple of million on the table. That could be the difference between getting a really good second pairing defenseman or not. Like things like that. But Edmonton's not at that point yet. Nobody's won anything.
No, and State of Survival has it right there correctly. Darnell Nurse's contract is killing them. Chris talks about it every week, so we know that this has been a problem for this team for a long time now. And until they get rid of that huge contract there, they're going to have a hard time, like you said, making trades at the deadline, signing other free agents. They are going to be locked into these 2 players, and it takes more than those 2, although they are probably the top 3-4 players in the league. You need more than that to win a Stanley Cup here. It's a whole total team effort. And if they are not able to fix their issues, like I said earlier, they are not going to be in the Stanley Cup final.
Better get good at drafting real quick.
Yep. Why would I take a discount when Darnell Nurse is out here collecting $9.5 million? he didn't take a discount, and he is, man, that contract looks terrible. I know Roberto Luongo once said his contract was terrible, but that Darnell Nurse one is up there as probably one of the worst to be signed in the modern day NHL. Like, there are some bad contracts that we've seen. Most notably, the one that stings for me is the Scott Gomez one.
Yes.
Once upon a time, yeah, that right. There's a
Wade
whole bunch.
Was another one with
Wade Redden. Yes, there's a whole bunch of Habs fans right now hearing Scott Gomez and having PTSD and probably need to go see their therapist because of it. But there are some bad contracts. Darnell Nurse is one of them. But that, like you said, that's an Oilers problem. That's like you figure it out. Do you have a sore? Figure out how to do that. Do whatever you got to do, but they need more pieces, man. This team needs, and they're hard to find, right? You need cheap young players who can exceed their expectation. And the good news is Edmonton has 2 of the best players in the world. So I mean, I'm pretty sure I could collect an assist playing on a line with McDavid and Draisatl. Pretty sure. So if I can do it, I'm assuming an NHL player can do it.
And just to be clear on Darnell Nurse, we're not saying he's an ineffective player or he sucks or stinks, or it's just he is not what the skill set he brings for 82 games a year is not worth $9.25 million. That's all we're saying. It is incredibly inflated.
He is $200,000 Toyota Corolla. Okay, it's just the value's not there, man. Sorry.
And the Corollas have gotten better, but it's still, I mean, that's not what you're necessarily looking for. You don't want to spend $200K on a Toyota Corolla. That's not happening. And the other thing, I'll just to kind of put a bow on this, I can see a situation where, remember how Ray Bourque needed to go to Colorado to get a Stanley Cup? I can see Edmonton becoming a place where like somebody that's already got cups. Now, and I'm not saying like, I would say like somebody like a Crosby. He's not going to Edmonton, but somebody of that mold to go there and help them get a cup and know they're taking a discount. That is going to be the way Edmonton has to get a cup at some point. So there we go. So we'll see, the big Draisaitl contract now locked up. They don't have that hanging over their head heading into next year. One guy that will miss next year is Torrey Krug. He made the decision to get ankle surgery. He's apparently, he said he fractured it 6 years ago in the playoffs when he was still with the Bruins. And just the pain that he's dealing with has gotten worse and worse every year to the point where like trying to get ready for camp this year, he could barely skate, couldn't do anything like that. So finally, as Kramer on Seinfeld once said, a fight against the body is a fight you can't win. And eventually he got to a point where you can't win anymore. So there we go. So, I mean, and this also makes sense why maybe if they were only going to do the Dylan Holloway one, they go and do the Philip Broberg offer sheet as well, because they on some level, they probably knew this was coming. They didn't just find out this week Torrey Krug wasn't playing. They had some indication that this was possible, probably right around that time. And they're like, all right, we need to cover our bases because we can't just add Ryan Suter and expect that to, be the, Band-Aid on the problem.
I remember Torrey Krug being a huge part of my fantasy championship run a couple years ago, but he was oft injured. Him, Mark Stone, always could pencil them in for an injury on my team. Always had an extra IL spot for them. It sucks that his body has started to fail him, but maybe this, maybe he'll get just the jump start he needs once he heals up.
Yeah, I mean, ankles are important in hockey, and I feel like maybe this would probably be a good time to get it fixed. He's not getting any younger, so if he wants to extend his career, that'd probably be a good idea. Maybe it also explains why he hasn't been that great. Maybe the last couple of years, maybe he's not moving as he should be. Because I don't know about you guys, but when I was playing NHL, DFS and stuff, building lineups, I mean, Torrey Krug was annoying because he'd be on the first power play unit and do nothing. And I was like, man, literally anybody else would be better to get value. So it's good that he's getting better. It at least frees up a spot on that top power play unit. So when I stack the St. Louis Blues, now I can look for a capable defenseman.
If you don't think ankles matter to hockey players, and especially defensemen, talk to Erik Karlsson, who all of a sudden, when he lost a third of the bone in his ankle or whatever it was, all of a sudden you started to see that on the ice a little bit. Now, he's expected to take that top power play spot, probably Justin Falk. Maybe he runs the point there. Maybe a Nick Leddy. I don't know. Colton Parayko. We'll see. We'll see how that breaks down. A couple other quick items to get to before we get to the Metropolitan Division odds. Mark Stahl has officially called it a career. I have his Ranger jersey hanging in the closet somewhere. After 1,136 games and 4 teams, most notably with the Blue Shirts, the 12th overall pick of the 2005 draft is taking a player development role with the Rangers. Believe it or not, he had an 8-goal, 19-assist season and a 7-goal, 22-assist season back in the 2009-10 and 2010-2011 seasons. I was a Stahl guy, and I completely forgot he had 2 years where he was actually better than average offensive defenseman. Who knew?
That's wild. I almost forgot Mark Stahl was playing.
I mean, he's trailed off the last couple of years for sure, but
Stahl was a huge part of that Rangers run in the late 2000s, early 2010s. Him, Girardi, McDonough. That was a defense you just didn't want to play against. And the one game that I really remember was, I think, 2012 playoffs against the Washington Capitals. I think game 5, it was Brad Richards had tied it with maybe like 0.2 seconds left. And then they come out to do the overtime, and he just slap shots it all the way from, almost mid ice and gets the game-winning goal. Mark Stahl, that is, and that's one of my favorite games that I've watched. Just in NHL general, that was a fun one.
I'm pretty sure that game was on my birthday, and I was at a Muse concert in some really small New York venue. Could have been Webster Hall. I don't remember, but I remember literally watching Muse on stage and watching the game on my phone because I had tickets to Game 7. So obviously I wanted it to get there. So I'm like doing like this and that, and I was not the obnoxious person holding the phone up. No, it was down here because I wanted it. And then it was like when I was like, all right, they won, and then I went back to the show. It was nice.
That's when the Rangers had to every series had to be Game 7. Like every series was grueling all the way up to when they played the Devils there. You could go to even 2014. Every series that they've played in the playoffs has to somehow get to Game 7.
I could care less about the Rangers, to be honest.
I know. We know how you feel about them.
Just
You'll get over Chris Kreider one day. He will.
Yeah, just hearing all these names, I could care less.
And finally, Macklin Celebrini is going to live with Joe Thornton and his family in the San Jose area for his rookie season. Macklin is actually, his family's in a town named Livermore in the East Bay, so not that far from San Jose, maybe about 30, 40 minutes away. It's not the first time in Sharks history that a young guy has gone to live with a vet. Kelly Rudy did that for Patrick Marleau during his rookie season. So, and I know other players have done that too. I forget who did it in Toronto not too long ago. But
wasn't it Marleau who let Matthews and Marner basically be their children? I think Marlowe's already got like 3 or 4 kids, and he's got 2 other NHL pros with him.
Yeah, he had 2 like teenage children to his roster at that point. So I mean, he had a basketball team then. But yeah, so we'll see. Well, I'm sure there'll be some fun stuff to come out of that because as Mike Greer referred to Joe Thornton, he says he has no official position with the team, but he is the director of vibes for the Sharks. So good for him. Joe Thornton, just, there's not a lot of like hockey icons in the Bay Area. It's, the Sharks kind of get forgotten about out, not in San Jose, but once you start to get to the East Bay, San Francisco, North Bay, but Marleau, Thornton, and now hopefully Celebrini. That'll be the big 3. So there you go. That's quick hits. Let's switch gears here. We have one more division to go with our Metropolitan Division odds here today. You can see them up there on the screen. The Devils, after the offseason they had, find themselves the favorites to win the Metro at plus 220. The Rangers and Hurricanes, who were the top 2 teams in the division last year, Rangers defending champs, both of them at plus 270. The Isles at plus 950. Then you got the Penguins at plus 1,000, Capitals at plus 1,800, Flyers at plus 2,000, and the Blue Jackets at plus 15,000. So I'm assuming before we really kick off the discussion, we're not really talking about anybody on the right side to win the division, correct? We are only looking at the left side, probably the top 3 teams here.
That seems pretty accurate, yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? If the Flyers actually had a goalie, I think I would have them a little bit higher on this list. They pretty much were in the final playoff spot for most of the entire season, right? Like last year. So the fact that they did that without Carter Hart in net, and we don't know if he's ever going to play again or what that status is, but if they had somewhat of a goalie, I feel like they would be a little bit higher.
Yeah, that right side can just be like, just disregard it. It doesn't it doesn't matter. It doesn't, just those teams are, I mean, the Capitals went out and did all these moves as if they're a team that's going to be good. But I think plus 1,800 is still pretty bold.
Now, before we move on to the division contenders, just odds to make the playoffs. The Penguins are, yes, plus 112, no, minus 142. The Capitals would be next on that list there, so let's pull them up. They would be, yes, plus 190, no, minus 250. And then the Flyers, you're looking at, yes, plus 200, no, minus 265. And then finally on the Blue Jackets, if you believe in a good story, plus 1,400 to make the playoffs, minus 6,000 to miss. So any of those, are we considering playoff yes for any of those teams on the right?
No.
Okay.
There are 3 teams coming out of the Metro, and as we saw last year, that is more than enough. The rest of those teams are coming out of the Atlantic. I remember when the Metropolitan Division used to be elite. Like, that's how old I am now. I can't believe what has happened to this division, how the mighty have fallen.
No, there used to be years where the Metro was like borderline lock for 5 teams, and the Atlantic was like, all right, you're lucky to get the 3 you get. And, the Devils being the favorite this year, maybe they should have been that third team among the top three in the Metro last year. That they had Jack Hughes injury, Timo Meyer injury, no goaltending. We've been down the list a million times. Dougie hurt. They really were that third team that Philly just kind of occupied that spot for a while, and then when Carter Hart got his whole deal, it just became wide open for anybody at that point, really, to get it. So now let's move over to the left side of the column, looking at the New York Islanders plus 950 to win the division. Again, I don't think anybody here is saying Isles to win the division, but looking at their playoff odds, yes, plus 104, no, minus 132. Are they a wild card team, or has the Atlantic kind of become the team where 5 teams get in? I mean, I know we can look at 4 teams pretty much immediately in the Atlantic. So
the Islanders can cure insomnia because that's
true.
that's how terrible they are to watch. This team is so uneventful. They should probably be on the right side. Like they're not very good. They're built from the back end out, but like if the back end's not doing what it needs to do, then that whole team falls apart because they offensively that they have nothing. They're the like the wish.com version of like the 2000 Devils, where you played the most boring style of hockey, but the exception is they won championships and made deep playoff runs, whereas the New York Islanders are going to do none of that.
Yeah, and this is where Teflon Lou comes into play here, because he has done nothing to add to this offense and make them better. They're, 1 or 2 pieces, and we're talking a totally different team here in the Islanders. They have defense, they have goaltending, but they just don't have enough on offense. And he did really nothing to improve outside of bring in
Anthony Duclair.
Right? Yeah, outside of bringing him in, that's he's more of a supplemental piece to me than a top tier offensive unit.
The one variable I'll say is Patrick Watt took over early in the season last year. Now he's got his first full off season with the team, first training camp with the team, all that stuff. That does make a difference sometimes. Not enough to win a division, but I mean, if we're going to say in the Atlantic that Boston, Tampa, Toronto, and Florida, those 4 are all locked in, with one of them getting a wild card spot, that means the Islanders are, do we like them better than the Red Wings for that last spot? Better than the Sabres for that last spot? Better than, Montreal?
I do.
Yeah,
I mean, because they have the goalie. They have Sorokin, and I think that goes a long way just for the final spot. I mean, we're not like you said, not talking about division, but for that final spot, I think that's a possibility.
There you go. State of Survival chiming in and agreeing there, echoing. Remember the WA effect, just like Trotz, a new coach can change things. So we will see what happens there at the Islanders. Now let's focus on the division odds here, because it's really 3 picks. Nobody's going out on a limb. We have a Ranger fan, we have a Devil fan, and then we have I say indifferent, but he doesn't like the Rangers, so I guess he would, I don't know if he's leaning Devils or Hurricanes, or maybe he's leaning the Rangers. I don't know, but he doesn't want to if he is leaning the Rangers. And I'm going to start with you, since it's your team that's the darlings of the offseason, addressed, they needed goaltending. They got a goaltending. They needed a good second and third pairing, reliable defenseman to plug in. They added those guys. Luke Hughes is another year older. If Jack Hughes can play, 75 plus games this season, Timo Meyer not skating on like 2 stilts, apparently with the injuries he was dealing with, because towards the end of the year he looked better. Are we ready to get ready for a Metropolitan Division banner after this season? Or is that what you're thinking?
When the Devils signed Markstrom, Chris said, now there's no more excuses. And I agree with that 100%. I think this is their division to win. They have the pieces there. If they can stay healthy, I think that they can definitely win this. I don't know about you, but I don't think the Rangers improved upon last season. Neither did the Carolina Hurricanes. So they're either going to be the same as they were last year, which is just enough to make it to the playoffs or possibly win the division. But that's it. I think I think both teams take a step back. They're getting older. They're not getting younger. So I'm going to be the homer. I know I hate to say it, but I'm going with the Devils. I'm drinking the juice right now.
So it's a red Hawaiian fruit punch in color. That's why it's like the Devil's color. There's got to be some sort of Devil's punch out there somewhere. Yeah, that's probably alcoholic. Yeah, if it's Devil's punch.
We can just agree right now. Plus 270 for the Carolina Hurricanes is quite a line there. That is, oh me, that's all. I want somebody to have as much confidence as me as FanDuel has in Carolina, because this is a team with a bottom six that just is not very good defensively. I think they can figure it out. I mean, who knows how many games you're going to get out of Freddie Anderson, right? So there's so many wild cards there with them. For them to have the same exact odds as the Rangers, like, okay. I think the New York Rangers will win this division, unfortunately. They, to me, are the better team. They're deeper. Their blue line is deeper as well. Igor Shesterkin is the best goalie in that division. He's probably top 2 in the NHL, behind maybe only Connor Hellebuck. So they have an edge in every single part of their lineup. Like, I don't think the Devils have a better offense than the Rangers. I don't think the Devils are better defensively than the Rangers. I don't think the Devils have a better goalie than the Rangers. So it's like, it may not be by much. I think those odds are fair to be close. I would probably like switch them, right? I could see the Rangers being plus 220 and then the Devils being plus 270. I think that would make a little bit more sense, but I could it's a 2-horse race in my mind. So I just think the Rangers have kind of been there, done that. So why would they not be able to do it again, right?
See, now I see a problem with that, in the fact that the more they don't win this, the more pressure is being put on this same group in New York to get this thing done. And at some point, the bubble's going to burst. I don't know if it's this year. I'm not going to say it's this year. I think it does come down to Rangers Devils in the end, because what you mentioned with Carolina, who knows if Freddie Anderson can stay healthy? We haven't seen it from him. And so I think it does come down to Rangers Devils. And obviously I'm going to take the Devils, and I'm pretty sure Adam's going to take the Rangers.
Well, before I give my take on the division, I am putting the link to the draft in the comments there, boys. So we're going to start our mock draft in about 8 minutes. So get your spot. I'm already claiming the 10th spot. I love that turn. Helps me to host and be able to just make my picks and go back. So let's get you fellas signed up. I'm going to tweet that out now as well. But before I give my take here on the team, let's just talk about the Hurricanes first. They are solidly a playoff team. I don't expect like a massive step back or anything like that. They're built more like a playoff team than they are a team to deal with the grind of the regular season. They're going to be a tough team to play against. But yeah, I think they're a playoff team, but I do not have them really in the division for the division race right now. I do think their odds should be slightly less than the Rangers, but it is what it is. The Devils and the Rangers, I think we're going to be seeing those two teams jockey for a position down the stretch. The Rangers are still the same team, mostly no Barclay Gaudreau. They bring in Riley Smith to try and address that top line right wing spot. So they're still, to me, the Devils still have to take, you have to beat the champ, you got to beat the champ. To be the champ, you got to beat the champ, I should say. The Devils, if they stay healthy, though, they could really be a juggernaut. So if you get a really healthy season out of New Jersey, I would lean the Devils. But if they deal with any sort of injury, even like Jack Hughes gone for a few games here, a few games there, they have the depth to withstand that now. But I think that race is going to be real close, so they can't really afford to lose too much ground. I'm going to be a homer. I'm going to pick the Rangers, but I think they're going to be looking at the Devils all the way down to the last game of the regular season.
I mean, isn't this what we want in the Metro, really, though? We want Rangers, Devils at the top, fighting for that division lead. There's no other way I would expect it or want it.
I mean, that rivalry has not, mattered. It's had its moments where it's, come back a little bit, but it hasn't really had that sizzle that, it had when we were younger. And, it would be nice for that rivalry to come back and really just be full blown, I hate to use the word hate, but, the Hudson River rivalry could use a little gasoline thrown on it. And maybe this is the season where that brings it back.
So what you got Remke for?
That's what we got Rempe for. That's right. But we'll see, and that's a guy you mentioned that, okay, we'll see how he's going to, last year they didn't want to play him in the playoffs because they didn't trust him both ways. Okay, we saw the videos of him working with George Laraque in his fighting in the offseason. Now let's see what he can contribute with significant fourth line minutes. He's going to get those this year. You can't hide him again. You can't do that again. You can't play those kind of limited minutes with him. But and Carolina is also a very well coached team. I want to go back to the Hurricanes for a minute. Again, it's not a disrespect. It's not that they're going to take a big step back. It's just I think there's a top tier in the Metro, which is the Devils and the Rangers, and they're in that second tier by themselves. So they're the 3 seed. I think we all agree they are the 3 seed this year out of the Metro.
Are we done with Carolina being that because they got Rod Brindamore? This is the Stanley. Is that done with? Has that ship sailed?
I don't think per se that it's sailed. I just think he's going to have to squeeze a lot of juice out of that team because they are you could tell the difference between a second and third line here. And their second line probably could use a winger on the left side, unless one of the kids breaks out and has a great year. But, Svechnikov was hurt a little bit. Yes, they signed Jarvis, and, defensively, I think they should be good. It shouldn't be a problem. But again, what are you getting out of Freddie Anderson? I don't think this is a poorly coached team. I think they will play well. It's just how much can you get out of certain players? You can't. Freddie Anderson is a glass house. He's going to fall apart. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And then how good is your goaltending backup at that point? And then how much can this defense support? Brent Burns is old now. There's only so much, and how much can you run Jacob Slavin out there? And, yes, you brought in Shane Gostisbehere and stuff like that to help bolster it. Sean Walker's in town as well. I think they'll be fine. That third spot is theirs. All they got to do is just not lose it. And that should be pretty easy considering all the teams behind them. But I think there will be a significant gap between the Carolina Hurricanes and whoever finishes 1-2. And by that standard, then the Carolina's going to get the unfortunate matchup of either having to play the Devils or the Rangers in the first round. And they're not getting past either of those teams. So I just feel like they're through no fault of their own, they're stuck. And this team just doesn't have enough, they don't have enough oomph offensively to make it matter.
State Survivor wondering if Jarvis will play in the top 3 or if Svech will take that spot. Aho, Svechnikov, Jarvis is probably, the Daily Faceoff has that as the top line right now, but you probably need to split that up a little bit to increase your depth there. I think you might have to move probably Svechnikov. I don't know. Rod Brindamore is going to earn his contract extension. That's for sure. He's going to have to, if they do well this year, he's going to be up for the Jack Adams for sure.
I would move Svech off that line. He can hit, he can throw his weight around. He's a good overall player. And I think he can help out somebody like Martin Necas. Jesperi Kotkaniemi is, second line center, apparently. He can be the catalyst for that line, kind of stir the drink a little bit. So whereas Aho's still going to get those tough matchups per se, I don't think Kotkaniemi is going to be counted on to shut down the opposing team's best players. It's definitely not Jordan Staal. He's aging here. So I think what'll happen is Aho's still going to get some good matches, but you got to split up a little bit of those lines. You got to make it difficult for teams. You can't just have all those eggs in one basket. And I think Svechnikov is the player who can do a lot more on different lines. He can have success, or at least I feel, on multiple lines, whereas I don't think that's the same thing for Jarvis.
Yeah, I would keep Aho and Jarvis together, and then because Svechnikov, because Aho can do a lot by himself. Svechnikov also can on the right line. Might be a little too top heavy there, so I would agree. I would probably move Svechnikov down. They're all going to be on that top power play out of it for sure. Or there's Necas to their top power play right now is looking like Necas at center with Svechnikov, Jarvis, Aho on the point, and Burns. Good top unit, but that second power play unit. I don't even know if I'd want to play them for 20 to 30 seconds of a power play.
It's going to be one of those years for the Carolina Hurricanes. I know you guys don't want to hear it, but it is what it is. Don't look at that team. Be realistic. Put on your regular glasses, the ones that you can read with, and look at that lineup and the depth that's missing from it. That bottom 6 it's not it, man. It's not good.
No, it's all right. So there we go. So Metropolitan division odds, we go through those. We agree that it's basically it's a 2-man race for the division. 3 of those teams, Rangers, Devils, Hurricanes, definitely in the playoffs. Islanders in the mix for that for that 4th spot and a wild card spot. We think they probably get it, but obviously a long season to go. We got to see how Washington meshes. We got to see if Pittsburgh actually decides to have some sort of coherence to their game this season. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's it. We've gone through the division odds. We'll do some conference and Stanley Cup odds again. I know we looked at Stanley Cup odds back in June, but we'll take a look at those again now that a lot has changed since then. We'll look at award-winning odds. We got still top 10 fantasy left wings and right wings to go here over the next few weeks. So plenty to get to. But of course, what are we here for? We're here for the mock draft, right? Coming up in a couple of minutes here. You know how Yahoo operates there. It'll say a minute. It says it starts in a minute 10, but then you get in the room, and then it's like another 2 minutes before the draft starts. So we got some time here. We're looking at a 10-teamer here.
We're
Full room. And you want to run through the positions and categories for today?
Yeah, so we got 2 centers, 2 left wings, 2 right wings, 4 defensemen, and 2 goalies. I think that was the same as last week as well. Goals, assists, plus minus, a Chris favorite. Power play points, shots on goal, and hits for the forwards and defensemen. And for the goaltenders, wins, goals against average, save percentage, and shutouts. So that is the point categories.
If Chris ever lost some form of a sports related like bet among friends, how I would punish him is I would create a fantasy hockey league with only one category, plus minus, and you have to pay attention to it to the whole. No goalies. It's just a plus minus league, and that forces you to have to pay attention to it and be an expert on something you have no desire to be. So keep that in the back of your mind.
Don't give them any ideas. Don't give them any ideas. I just want you in the. I know this is a hockey in the spirit of football that is starting in one of my fantasy football leagues. In the first, this was like 7 years ago. The loser had to wear at that time was a unicorn jersey out in public for some of our events. Yours truly finished last, and then being last once wasn't good enough. I finished last again the next year, and then we got a unicorn onesie that I was also forced to wear in public. So I lost that league in its first 2 years of existence, 2 years in a row. Mind you, this league is now going into year number 8, but I am still scarred by unicorns. So people will send me pictures of like unicorns and stuff that they find at the dollar store. I also refuse to dress up as a unicorn for like Halloween or any of that. Unicorn birthdays, we don't do that. I've also been dubbed the double uni, which is a terrible nickname as well. So like I don't need a plus minus only league if I lose. I'm still trying to recover from one league here. I can. The plus minus is just the worst stat, and we've already been here. We know why, right?
You're lucky it's a pain to ship things to Canada. Otherwise, because my daughter loves unicorns, I'd be sending you unicorns. So I don't want to deal with the customs forms for a gag, but nonetheless, maybe I'll find one to get delivered to
I
you.
will flag it as like a bomb threat. That's what I'll do when it gets to the board. I'll be like, I have no idea where this is from. Once it gets into Canada Post hands, I'll be like, hey man, this is hazardous material. You're gonna need to return this, please.
There you go. So we got about 30 seconds to go here. Draft order. Chris is going to be drafting 8th. I'm going 10th. Anthony's 5th. That kind of seems to be where the usual spots where we settle in, given our own devices there. Looks like that the guy picking first is already on auto pick. Oh, you didn't. I didn't remember.
Damn.
Oh well.
It's okay.
It's okay. I got to do it on this one too. Oh no. There we go. It's gone. All right. First pick on the clock. There we go. So Connor McDavid, I would assume, is going to go at this point.
Yeah, it'd have to be. I mean,
he's become the consensus number 1 pick now. Like before, it was like on Yahoo, it was like 1 point something. Now it's just like 1.
Brendan, who's at the number 9 spot, is going to mess you guys up because he's also got the auto pick.
I can work around auto pick. What I can't work around is the Silver Fox, Craig, and he's not here today. So we'll have better drafts. I mean, we missed you, Craig. We hope if you're watching later, we missed you today, but we didn't miss you that much.
I'm gonna be able to take some Minnesota skaters. Okay.
And there goes Draisatl third. And here's the thing: like, okay, let's say somebody takes McKinnon instead of McDavid. If you're drafting at 2, you're not going to not take McDavid. So it's not like one of these things where like, oh, somebody didn't take McDavid and he slid all the way to 8th. Like he's going first 2.
You have an easy choice at 2. Pick whatever player wasn't picked first.
Correct. It. So 3 centers off the board here: McDavid, McKinnon, and Draisatl. No real surprises there, as Steve is on the clock now with the clock running out on him, and he's going to take Quinn Hughes. Interesting. We are pro
Holy smokes.
taking defensemen early on this show in terms of drafts. I don't know about 4th overall, and if you're going to do somebody 4th overall, it'd probably be McCarr. But hey, here we are.
Steve,
Should I
okay?
just thank Steve for gifting me Austin Matthews?
I mean,
Steve,
yeah, I would have sent maybe like an
okay?
edible arrangement or something.
Wow.
There goes Kucherov, goes 6th. So not available on the clock here with Pasternak on the clock. Maybe a Mikko Rantanen. No, you got to take Pasternak there. And now Chris on the clock.
I finally did it, boys. This is mock number 7, and I have finally been able to say that I have drafted Cale Makar.
There we go. And there goes Artemi Panarin. And listen, we've talked about how big a fan I am of this guy at right wing. If you're going to give me Mikko Rantanen at 10,
yeah,
got to do it.
Wow.
All right. So now I got to make a decision here where I want to go next, because you already got 2 defensemen off the board. I don't think it's at this point. I think it's a little bit of a reach for Bouchard or Yossi. So I don't think I'm going that way. This is a league with hits. Yeah, I'll take Brady Tkachuk. That's fine. I'll go Rantanen and Tkachuk to start. And there goes Nylander. So you got a Panarin, Nylander there for Brendan. That's a solid left-right wing punch for a starting lineup there.
It's a league with hits, and you just allowed me to get JT Miller here at pick 13.
I want Brady. I wanted Brady. I have Brady in a few. I have shares of Brady in multiple leagues. I'm not like a Brady Tkachuk fan, but because I have so many shares of him in fantasy, I'm kind of forced to. But yes, I had no disrespect to JT Miller. Easily could have taken him there too.
Damn, I can't believe we let that happen to me.
And there we go. So Chris actually happy with his draft out of the gate. We'll see how long that lasts. We talked about a good left wing, right wing combo there. Pasternak and Kaprizov there to not available. That is certainly not a bad winger punch on both sides. Reek six, Kucherov, Kachuk, also a solid left right wing combo. Ant's going to get his guy Jack Hughes there at the 6th pick in the 2nd round. He's a guy I could have taken there too. So Ant's going to be pretty strong down the middle, and Jack Hughes has left wing eligibility in Yahoo.
You're telling me I picked 5th and I got Austin Matthews and Jack Hughes. I mean, super excited about that.
And Quinn Hughes, who went 4th overall to Steve, has taken Igor Shesterkin, first goalie, off the board. So there is something to be said about this. A lot of quality centers out there. This early in the draft, you're still going to find really good left wings and right wings. So if you want to build from your blue line and back end out, and you're getting, we'll say, the 2nd best overall defenseman and what we say top 2 goalie between him and Hellebuck, we'll see how it shakes out for him, but I don't mind it right now. It's all how he plays the later rounds, though. Phil Forsberg goes with 2-8, Elias Pettersson 2-9, and we're rounding up round 2 now with Hakeem on the clock, about to make his back-to-back picks here. Still some quality guys on the board for sure. Take Sam Reinhart with the 1st pick, and then Sidney Crosby with the 2nd pick. So 3 centers there. Reinhart also has the right wing eligibility, I believe. So well, here we go into round 3 of mock draft number 7 here on Total Hockey Now. Don't forget, give us a follow on Twitter /X, on Facebook. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube right now, you know we're here. So give us a like, follow, comment, whatever you got to do. There goes Bouchard and Dahlin, back-to-back defensemen there. So we're starting to see, and there goes Helleb. Ooh, interesting. Steve decides to take the top 2 goalies in the draft, basically the consensus top 2. And he's going to build his roster out from there.
I'm a little bit more interested in Steve's team. Forget my team. I don't care.
I know.
I'm going to auto draft mine and just study whatever Steve here is doing. We're living on we're living differently. I like it. Maybe he's testing something out.
And that's what the beauty of these mock drafts is. It's to try and test those things out. You don't always have to try and have the best mock possible. That's where you say, you move around positions to try to see who you get in different spots. You try different things like that. Like, all right, today I'm going to go goalie heavy early and see how that works out for me. Ant decides to add to his blue line. Roman Yossi goes there. So top 5 defensemen are off the board. Braden, followed by Braden Point, Svechnikov, and now Chris on the clock here.
I'm not going to fall behind on the goalie run, so I'm going to take a goalie who's actually signed to a contract.
There's UC Saros, and there goes Zach Hyman, and now I'm on the clock, and I like that Saros pick. I was considering that there. Hyman was another guy I was considering, but now I'm on the clock now, and I need to make some decisions. All right. I'm going to take, it's a little early, but I want to get one of my defensemen there. So let me get Adam Fox. Certainly don't mind that as a Ranger fan. And I got a feeling a goalie run is coming soon. I know they're in contract negotiations right now. They're about $1 million, $2 million apart here. Hopefully they get something done. But you know what? No, I'm not going to take Jeremy Swayman, actually. I talked myself out of that. I'm going to take Jake Ottinger. Just in case I believe that Swayman will be able to handle a goalie workload, but I'm going to go the safe route here. Take the guy I know that's going to be getting the bulk of the starts in Dallas.
I wanted Jake Ottinger there, so it's quite unfortunate.
You were getting excited when I was talking about Swayman because you're like, all right, I may get this guy here. Nope, no.
I guess I'm going to take a winger here. That's my plan.
There goes Jake Gensel. Before him, Chris Kreider goes. So Brendan going wing heavy here. And again, wings, when the quality falls off, it falls off. So, going left wing, right wing, left wing, left wing. He's definitely going to be deep on the left side.
I think Zach Hyman has dual position eligibility, though. So,
Yes.
Again, very important. You can swap them wherever you need to be. I'm sure, Panarin and Kreider don't. They're stuck on their sides.
Yahoo's a little more lenient with their position eligibility over some other platforms, which, hey, I'm okay with that. Anthony's on deck here as he waits to see who Rick J6 picks. He's got Point, Kachuk, and Kucherov. Does he go goaltender or defenseman here to kind of address one of those, or does he keep going forward? We will see. There goes Jack Eichel. So, again, you got to play two centers. You got Point and Eichel. Those are pretty good. There goes Andrei Vasilevsky, so Ant gets his first goalie.
Yeah. I'm still a little weary about Jeremy Swayman getting all of this play in Boston by himself. I think Boston's on, I don't want to say a steep decline, but I don't know. There's just something I'm not comfortable with as Jeremy Swayman being my top goalie just yet. And
that's probably why I held off on him too. Or maybe that that comes back to bite me, and Swayman wins the Vezina this year. But I'm gonna go with what I know versus what I don't know. So Mitch Marner goes. So we were all looking at Steve's team with his pick in the 4th round. He takes Mitch Marner. It's where I've been seeing Marner go late 3rd round, or somewhere in the late 3rd round, somewhere in the 4th round. And hey, you're still going to get a ton of production. You're going to get power play points out of Marner. So right now, Steve about to be on the clock again soon. But then after him, Steven Stamkos goes to Randy, Jason Robertson to Paul, Kyle Connor and Ovechkin. Certainly not a bad way to go on the turn there for Akeem to address wings, because he's got his 3 centers now as wings. Hedman goes to Paul. Then Sergei Bobrovsky over to Randy. He gets his first goalie. And then Noah Dobson there. So Steve really just focusing on the back. If we're building a real hockey team, this guy would be building like a winning hockey team for like the next decade. We'll see how it works out fantasy-wise there. And there goes Connor Bedard at pick 5.5 to Anthony. So I think, he's been going earlier in some drafts. So the fact that he's still there and he's going to produce this year, that's a shrewd little pick you made.
Yeah, I have not been able to yet get Connor Bedard to come to me. Usually, like you said, he goes 3, 4. So to have him at 5, along with Austin Matthews and Jack Hughes and Roman Josi, I mean, I'm feeling pretty good at this moment in time.
So Jeremy Swayman goes right after Anthony there. So Rick J6 gets his first goaltender, then Josh Morrissey, and Chris is on the clock. I know who I want with one of my picks. Please don't take him.
I'll start here. I think he's going to be just fine, even though we talked about Carolina and their struggles. I think Sebastian Aho will be okay.
That's who I was taking. Now I have to figure out because
that's who you were taking. Oh, my bad.
Yeah. I'm sure you really care.
I'm shedding a tear.
I could see that. Let's see here. I got a decision to make quickly here. All right, fine. Adrian Kempe, dual position eligibility, center and right wing. Let's see here. I'm sorry. I'm taking my time. I was really hoping I could get. You know what? Fine. That's how this. I'm gonna. That's still a little early for him, but I was about to spite pick somebody.
Okay.
You know what? All right. Let me get a little piece of this team's top 6 there. Let me take Jesper Bratt. we all have these high hopes for New Jersey this year, and he's going to be hopefully a big part of that top 6 power play 1 top line. And so we see Carter Verhaeghe go, Wyatt Johnston to Chris, then Stuart Skinner and not available, Brad Marchand and Anthony on the clock there. So I have a feeling Wyatt Johnston was a little bit of a snipe for Anthony there via Chris.
Needed I mean, he can play center, but he's also got right wing eligibility, which I think is nice. I think that's where I would slot him in anyway. So I also want to see where he's going to play in Dallas. I know he's going to get a top 6 role, which is good. I'm hoping he just takes Joe Pavelski's spot.
That would make the most sense, and he certainly played well enough to slide into that spot for sure. All right, so Ant takes Dougie Hamilton there, so he's got 2 defensemen. He's got a couple of defensemen there locked in. There goes Miro Heiskanen to Steve, who's really just building that blue line out. Practicing a strategy we've talked about here. Then goes Joel Eriksson Ek, and now Paul back on the clock. I'm okay with my team right now. So there goes Georgiev and Barzal, realizing he's got to get a goaltender there. I have position flexibility. That is the one thing I like about my team. Still a lot of rounds to go here. Just that Aho snipe got me. Otherwise, I'm pretty happy right now. And
Does Hakeem have 4 centermen on his team? He has Barzell and Crosby, and he has McDavid, and then I think isn't his 4th does he have another one?
Yeah, all those. And well, Reinhardt at least I think can slide to right wing, but yeah, McDavid,
okay.
Crosby, and Barzal.
Okay. I was gonna be like, man, this. You only start 3 of them, and that's a pretty. I was like, I don't remember any of those. I think Barzell also has dual position. Okay, it's not as problematic as I thought it would be.
So Keller was the guy I was also considering when I took Jesper Bratt. So it was a tad early for him, but there he goes. Good job by Randy Cannon.
Steve took a forward. That's new.
He took Tim Stützle.
He did. He took a forward. Oh, come on. We're taking. Wow, I just got double sniped. I had 2 players queued up. That's unfortunate.
So Tage Thompson, Travis Konechny, Ilya Sorokin, the last 3 picks there. Ant gets Sorokin. He's got Vasilevsky, Sorokin. That could be quite the 1-2 punch there. It's not just Sturkin Hellebuck, but it's close.
I'm gonna go down a little bit here. Start here.
Sergachev. One day I'll get you in one of these things. One day. And there goes Jacob Markstrom. I got decisions to make here, so let's take a look at the available defensemen on the board. All right. Let's take Brandon no. All right. I'm going to take Demko as my second goalie. I don't love it, but want to get that addressed. Let's see here. And I'll take Zibanejad. There are other people I was considering there. Maybe, I was looking at the blue line there. There was guys that I don't love Montour there. I feel like I could, a little bit later. But, I mean, there's still some decent defensemen out there. I don't love my blue line. That is the one thing that Steve's strategy is really hurting me. So then there goes Cole Caulfield. No surprise there. He's taking the number 13 this year. Kudos to him. Mackenzie Weegar, Freddie Anderson, and now Anthony on the clock.
Good old fan favorite, Kevin Fiala.
The guy you love to take. There goes Bo Horvat to Steve. So now he's starting to dress forward. There goes Brandon Montour after I passed him up for Zibanejad. Let's see what Paul does here. He took McAvoy last round. He takes Dylan Larkin. We talked about Dylan Larkin on the show last week as like, hey, the guy you get in the end of the 8th round for the production you're going to get, there's some tremendous value there for Dylan Larkin. Not high hopes with Detroit this year, but he's still going to produce. And Hakeem, after going crazy with centers and forwards, he goes Forsling, Devin Taves back-to-back there. Still some good options on the board. Hoping a couple of those make it back to me, or at least one of those, as we move forward in round 9 of this draft, of this mock draft. There goes Timo Meyer, and there goes Moritz Seider. I was hoping he would get back to me there, but not going to happen. That's been the story of me with defensemen over the last couple of mock drafts, is hoping they get back to me, and they don't. So maybe I should learn my lesson one of these weeks.
That week is not today.
It is not today. There goes my. Here we go. Here comes that string of green that's going to screw me again. I'm sure Chris will do his part to add green to that block too.
I can promise you, I'm going to take a forward here.
There goes Carlson.
I'm. I don't know what I'm expecting from him, but I think it'll be good. I think it'll be just fine.
I think I love the hurdle pick. And all right. At least I get a guy that I'm not upset with as my second defenseman, Brock Faber. I'll take that. I mean, the fact that the Nuge is still sitting out here at this point, got to take him. Going to be part of that Edmonton top power play unit. I want to have at least one piece of that. I'm going to try and come away from every draft with at least one share of that top Edmonton power play unit, if possible. Matt Boldy is a guy that gets slipped on the rod.
There's my Minnesota forward.
A lot of disrespect for Matt Boldy, as a commenter pointed out a few episodes ago. The fact that he went in the 10th round is criminal. Chris Reeves.
If Greg was here, he would have been gone probably 4 rounds ago. So
yeah.
I would have never had the choice. So
there you go. And he's on the clock now. A lot of defensemen going here. I mean, look at all that green. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of the last round and a half have been defensemen. 9 picks. And then make it 10. John Carlson.
I just want you to know, from Brock Faber. So Brock Faber, Zach Werenski, and John Carlson were all players I had queued, and they all left in the span of like 7 picks. So.
Oh, that'll happen sometimes. All right, so here we go. DeBrincat, Tippett, Jordan Binnington, Linus Olmark, Shea Theodore. All right, so here we come around here in the 11th round of the draft. Just a few rounds to go here. We are a 16-round draft with Paul on the clock here. Let's see what he goes. He's got centers. He's got wings. He's got defense. He's only got 1 goaltender, so we'll see what he does here. If he maybe goes back-to-back goalies with his picks to shore up the crease a little bit. And just to update you on Steve's team, Mike Matheson. Yeah.
Damn.
Was he going to make it by you, Chris? Because I was taking him with one of my swing picks there.
I don't have a defenseman lined up anymore. That sea of green started, and then I decided to just let it happen. And I understand, right? Because we've done a couple of these drafts, so I know what happens when we get here. I just didn't want to embark on the green voyage right now.
And the green voyage is still continuing a little bit after Matheson. Brent Burns goes to Rick J6, who's taken 3 defensemen in a row. Ant gets Nick Suzuki. NA gets Nico Hischier. Great pick there in the 11th round with Chris on the clock here.
That's who I wanted, actually. I don't think it's too early for him. I'll do Slav.
All right, I'm on the clock now, and this guy's still being out there, a little surprising, so I will reap the benefit. I'll take Alexis Lafreniere.
That was my next one. So
sorry about that. Let's see here. I need to take more defensemen. I'm probably looking at that point. I have a lot of position versatility amongst my forwards, so I'm okay. I can kind of just take best available amongst forwards. He's still the top guy in LA, probably the last season. Take Doughty. There goes Hannafin. So defensemen just moving at this stage of the draft as people trying to fill out their rosters. I still need a 4th and a bench defenseman, so I'm going to have slim pickings there. Maybe I can scrape something together. But here we go. Chris back on the clock.
I feel like the news that Macklin Celebrini living with Joe Thornton in that regimen might help him. So that's what I'm going to take.
So I don't get Sergachev. I don't get Celebrini.
But you did get Lafreniere and Brock Faber. So
that's true.
Can't have everything we want today.
I know. But I mean, Celebrini, this is the first, I think this is out of this is our 7th mock draft. This might be the 2nd time I've not come away with Celebrini. There goes Brady Shea, Jonathan Marchessault, a couple of Predators back-to-back with Anthony on the clock here. He took Nick Suzuki and then Carlson and Hughes a couple of rounds prior to that. And he gets old, reliable Brandon Hagel.
Can never go wrong. Dual eligibility as well. I'm always for that.
Martin Necas, Pyotr Kochetkov goes back-to-back Hurricanes there with Paul on the clock here. Paul taking Mike Matheson last round. He's got 4 defensemen. I could see him looking at a wing here, potentially a goaltender, depending on what he wants to do. And we talked about Steve, and there goes Robert Thomas, good pick there. Chris Letang, John Tavares, and Paul back on the clock. So we can keep an eye on Steve's team. After Quinn Hughes in the first round, Igor Shesterkin and Connor Hellebuck in rounds 2 and 3. Mitch Marnell 4. Dobson, Heiskanen 5-6. Stutzel and Horvat 7-8. Sider round 9. DeBrincat 10. Hintz 11th. And Necas 12th. I'm not a big Alex DeBrincat. That's the only pick I don't love out of all of them, but good job all around. There goes Darcy Kemper. I think that's a good late round pick for Paul as a second goalie in the 13th round. Probably going to get the bulk of the workload there. See how that happens. Jeremy Lauzon goes, big hits guy. Taylor Hall, don't know if I got to take that guy there. Smart pick by Arturi Lehkonen by Ant there.
I love me some Arturi Lehkonen.
All right, so after Lehkonen, Blake Coleman, Drake Batherson, Seth Jones, Brock Nelson, and I am back on the clock here. I'm torn between 2 defensemen here. I'm going to take Jake Sanderson. I'm going to take the higher offensive upside. Sorry, Chris. Saw that reaction. Let's see here. Let's count up. I think I need more center. 1, 2, 3.
That was my fault. I should have taken Jake Sanderson there. I thought he was going to turn, but because I feel like if I had taken Sanderson, you wouldn't have taken Jones, and Jones would have come around. So
grab Mark Scheifele. 2 rounds to go here. Nikolai Ehlers goes. Chris back on the clock here. So 2.5 rounds really to go.
I'm gonna take a dart here, I guess. I mean, he's still gonna play a lot, right? As long as he doesn't like break a leg.
Yeah, I mean, Sanderson and him are going to be the guys that move the puck from that blue line. So, although Shabbat is kind of, not to say he hasn't lived up to expectations, but he hasn't been that, bona fide top defenseman that everybody thought he was going to be. Philip Gustafson goes to not available. There's Patrick Kane and Anthony back on the clock here.
Yeah, I have 1 right wing spot left, and I'm gonna reach a little bit here. I'm gonna take Michkov.
I don't think that's a reach in round 14. I think you're going to start seeing him move up more and more in mock drafts because I mean he's projected to maybe slot in on that Philly top line.
Yeah, it's like Chris said though, like we don't know how he's going to play under the coach. The coach is going to be the one. That's one of our shorts this past week. It's the coach really that's going to determine if he plays enough or not.
So after Mishkov pick, it goes Owen Power, Darnell Nurse, Lucas Raymond, Alex Tuck to round out round 14, Evander Kane round 15, open round 15, and Jacob Chikrin goes there. So defenseman still going. There goes Neil Pionk. This was not a draft where you could get away with sleeping on defensemen. Victor Arvidsson.
I am going to take my final goalie here.
There goes Connor Ingram, another guy that I like to get.
I'll take a dart here with Bohm.
All right, so I took Thatcher Demko as my goalie too. We've talked about this in the past. There are certain goalies where you have to have the handcuff, you have to have the tandem. Artur Shilov's got to take him there. And then to open the last round, I need another defenseman. I mean, there's really... He's going to be the top defenseman in Philly. I'll take Travis Sanheim there. I mean, there's other guys you can look at. I could take a Radko Gudas to get the hits. I could take a Thomas Harley in Dallas. I could take an Aaron Ekblad, who's probably going to have a little bit more of a role this year. We'll see with Montour gone, but I'll go with Sanheim. I know he's the top defenseman in Philly, so at least I know I'm getting that. Ilya Samsonov goes with Brendan's final pick as Chris tries to hash out what he's going to do with his last pick. Pavel Buchnevich there. round 16. Another guy that goes late in drafts that can certainly have a nice impact on your roster.
I feel like Gabriel Landeskog is a good pick. That's fair.
Last round. I mean, that's what your shot. That's where you take your shots. Is the last couple of rounds.
That's another good one. Buchnevich has dual position eligibility, so I feel good about that. But I just want you guys to know I drafted a defenseman with my first pick, and then I drafted a second one in round 13. So
wow, look at you.
I feel like I went quite that middle part where all the green was going kind of sealed the fate as to what I was doing.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. And when you get those runs like that, if you don't want to get caught in a spot where you're forced taking somebody just to get one, Chris decides, you know what, you guys have that party. I'll wait for the next one. I'll catch the next bus. You guys get on that one.
Take the next elevator up.
Yes. All right. So it's time for draft recap here. We'll go through all three of our teams, and we usually pick one team to pay attention to amongst the others. And I think Steve's team is the one we'll focus on today. Let's go in order here. Let's start with Steve's team. As we said before, opening the draft with Quinn Hughes, Igor Shesterkin, Connor Hellebuck as your first three picks is certainly an interesting way to go. Getting quality offense with Mitch Marner there, and then Dobson and Heiskanen. So right off the bat, you got your two goalies, and you have three of your four top defensemen, and you have a very reliable guy who produces, who's going to get a lot of points and play on the top power play unit in Toronto. Centers is a position you can wait on if you're not going to get a top one. It's okay to wait on those. Stutzel and Horvat, not a bad 1-2 punch. Rounds out his blue line with Seider there. I mean, geez, that's a 1-4 punch that is very tough to contend with. Then gets Alex DeBrincat, probably is his top left wing. Don't love that pick. There's Taylor Hall. Don't necessarily love that pick, or Arvidsson or Tanner Janot. And then he gets Owen Power there. Hintz and Natchez. Natchez has dual position eligibility. So I think his draft started off pretty good, kind of faded a little bit at the end there. But that's the price you pay when you're going to take all those defensemen up front. You're going to have to take the Taylor Halls and Victor Arvidssons of the world at the end.
I still like the defense core that he's built. I mean, he obviously has the edge at goaltending if everything works out as it should be. He's got the two best goalies, I think, in the league. So, and I guess it might be a little bit easier to find forwards that kind of are in good positions to succeed. So guys who might play in the top six, guys who might get like top power play unit kind of opportunities and stuff. So I feel like that works out well. There's some upside there. Definitely, maybe he has more knowledge about Quinn Hughes because I did not have him on 4.
All right, so we got hidden in plain sight there. It's saying he is team NA. So let's take a look at his team. He's watching. They had a pretty good draft. Let's take a look. So he opens up with Pastrnak, Kaprizov, arguably the top right wing and top left wing available. Some would say Panarin is top left wing. I think either him or Kaprizov. Then gets Svechnikov there, Barkov. So really just builds a solid core with his first 4. Gets Josh Morrissey, who gets overlooked, but he's still an absolute defenseman number 1 for most fantasy teams. Gets Stu Skinner there, so he gets his top goalie. Tage Thompson, when he was healthy last year before he got hurt, played well when he came back. Should have a nice year this year. He says here, I'm projected first in skater categories, but the goalies brought me down. Then he rounds out his defense there with Mackenzie Weegar, Erik Karlsson, Zach Werenski. I think that's okay. It's not a top-notch defensive, but those will get you points, and they'll get you your categories you need out of your blue liners. Then from there, Nico Hischier, love that pick in the 11th round. Marchessault, Drake Batherson. And then, the goaltending, Stu Skinner, I believe that he's going to have a nice big season. He's going to follow up from the Stanley Cup. Other people don't necessarily believe that on this podcast. Looking down below in the Dolphins hat. Nonetheless, but hey, I think Stu Skinner's a quality goalie 1. And then Shane Gostisbehere, he's going to be getting power play time somewhere for Hurricanes because that's why they brought him in. And Gabriel Landeskog, like we said earlier, a last round pick. If he comes back and gives you any production, that was worth it.
Projected number 1 in skaters, that seems quite fair. There's a lot of good upside there. I mean, there's a couple of players on his team that I wanted, specifically Werenski, Hischier in those spots. Yes, goaltending will be a challenge, but offensively it should be okay.
I think Landeskog is a great last pick. I mean, you're either putting him on IR to start the season. And then if he comes back and he plays, I mean, if he's anything of what he used to be, that last pick is going to be a killer. I like his draft. I like NA's draft more than I like Steve's draft. I don't like Steve's start of the draft. I don't know what he had in the books, like Chris said, but where Chris picks, that's where I feel that the defense should be starting to be picked. If you go back up to where we are here, taking Quinn Hughes at 4, you look at Cale Makar going at number 8 there, and then there was no defenseman picked after that. See, if he would have swapped and I guess went Igor Shesterkin and then Quinn Hughes, I would have said that. Yeah, that makes sense. But you missed out on offensive production from Austin Matthews, Nikita Kucherov, Pasternak. I even would take Cale Makar over Quinn Hughes. I don't know. I just don't like that as the start. I think he's still got a great defense out of that without having to make that pick of Quinn Hughes. I think he really missed out on a top pick there.
Steve, you can send your hate tweets directly to Ant Rivera 86.
Nice.
You can go ahead and do that.
I
won't say that I hate it. I will definitely say it was a choice. Someone to share as well. Right. But I feel like it wouldn't be fair to tackle on the Mets side. The Mets do whatever they have to do as well. But
F came out of the wild card right now, so they're gonna break hearts. That's how it goes.
But I don't kill him on, like I did the Igor Shesterkin Connor Hellebuyck tandem the last time we went. So that's great. But the Quinn Hughes one that early, I feel like he could have got him second or third round. I don't think he had to make that move. He missed out on prime offensive production.
You do make a point. Like if you want to try and go with that strategy at 4, it might be a tad early to try and grab a defenseman there. Like a little bit later in the round, fine. You want to grab Hughes or Makar and go with that, But hey, he's going to get that. Again, he missed out on a guy like a Matthews or somebody like that. But overall, I think once he did all right until we got into those later rounds. Another comment here from Hidden in Plain Sight. He thinks he reached for Svechnikov a little bit. I don't even know if I would say that's necessarily a reach. I mean, maybe Hyman instead of Svechnikov there, but I think that's right about that range where Svechnikov needs to go.
Yeah. Well, you look at his first 2 picks too. Pasternak, Kaprizov, that's going to be solid right at the top there. Barkov, Morrissey as his defenseman. Even him picking all the way down there and getting that Josh Morrissey as his top defenseman, that's pretty good to me.
I don't think there was a ton of value left there though, because Svechnikov hits. And in a league where hits count, like for me, taking JT Miller was because he's projected to have 200 hits. Like throwing your weight around as an elite player is something, because elite players usually have the puck, and when they do, they can't hit. So getting a guy who can produce offensively and as well throw his weight around, I think that was just fine. And again, Carolina doesn't have a lot of depth, so Svechnikov's going to be on the ice a minute. I could see him averaging probably, I don't know, anywhere between 19 to 21 minutes a night there. So I can live with that.
Picking after Hidden in Plain Sight is Chris, who got Makar. He finally gets Cale Makar, and he gets JT Miller 1-2, UC Saros 3. So good core there to start for you.
Absolutely. Then I go with Jake Gensel because all the players that I wanted were taken before. Sebastian Aho, again, banking on the upside. Wyatt Johnson, man, just a top 6 role would be great. Top line specifically. Jacob Markstrom, because I hear the Devils are elite. Cole Caulfield, because he's scoring 40, obviously. Thomas Hertl just feels like there's upside there. I feel like Vegas is a really good team, and being a good player on a good team usually does some good things. I finally get Matt Boldy. That's kind of nice. Uri Slafkovsky, big season for him. He can throw his weight around. Macklin Celebrini is going to be on the Joe Thornton workout regimen, because Joe looks like he could probably still play at least, I don't know, second line AHL, and he's what, 40 something now. Seth Jones, Thomas Chabot, Bowen Byram, don't love it, but hey, YOLO. Then I needed a forward, so Pavel Buchnevich was the best of the gang there.
Going back to Hertl for a second, he's the second line center behind Eichel, so he's going to get more favorable matchups too. So that's another thing to consider there in that range. We all know my thoughts on Macklin Celebrini. That's a great range to get him, and as mock drafts go on, he might be moving up. He might be becoming more of a 10th round pick as things go on. And yeah, you waited on the defense a little bit. But as a fourth or fifth defenseman, I kind of like Bowen Byram. Like if you're forced to wait, he's not a bad guy to get towards the back end of a draft. And yes, Seth Jones, we've talked about how his minus is going to be atrocious, but if we expect more production out of the Blackhawks, who's running the blue line for him? It's not going to be the draft pick yet. It's going to be.
And remember, we don't care about the plus minus, right? Which is why we also went with Bowen Byram and Thomas Chabot, because those are meaningless stats. I will say this for Bowen Byram. I'm hoping that the Buffalo Sabres don't go with a 4-forward, 1 defenseman power play. I'm hoping they add Bowen Byram to it with Rasmus Dahlin. I think that would help his value a lot. Because looking at like Buffalo's kind of like offense, like yes, you have Tage Thompson, yes, you have Tuck, but then like after that, maybe, you know, every once in a while, put him there, see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see that too, because he's a guy, like I said, I'm targeting later in drafts to kind of fill out the back end of a blue line. We'll see what Mr. Lindy Ruff does up there in his second time around with the Buffalo Sabres. And to wrap the recap up here, let's go through my team. I always love to grab Mikko Rantanen in the back end of that first round, so I'm happy to get him. We talked about top tier players that also throw their body around. Brady Tkachuk, certainly a guy that him and JT Miller both kind of comparable in that regard. Then early run of defensemen go. I think I'm getting ahead. I'm gonna be okay with taking Adam Fox. I end up Fox Faber as a 1-2. I'm okay with that. I almost had a bad blue line, and I think I rebounded okay with Doughty and Sanderson to fill it out, but I wish I would have done better there. Jake Ottinger, Thatcher Demko, Sheloffs. I'll take that crease combo. And then I'm running out of time for the draft thing. And there it goes. So we'll get that off the screen. Thank you very much, Yahoo. But, I got sniped on Aho. But other than that, I was okay with the way my team shook out. I had a lot of position of versatility with center, left wing, right wing. I could really move guys around the lineup. So not my least favorite draft, probably not my favorite draft, but of the 7, I would say it was probably somewhere right smack in the middle there. So always happy to throw another mock draft out there.
Especially when you get to pick your spot of where you want to draft. I know you like 10, so you stayed at 10. I said to myself, I went 1 last time. Let's try to get a little bit in the middle. Obviously, you never know what you're going to get when it's always automatic, but picking at 5, I think, is one of the tougher spots to pick at because you don't get the turn. You don't get that snake turn. So you're kind of in a tough position, and you're basically waiting for most of the draft for your turn to come around again. And it gets tougher and tougher when all these good picks are being taken.
I agree. I don't like being in the middle of the draft. I'd rather be towards either end of the round. I'd rather be towards the back end of a round, but I'd rather be towards the front of a round than be in the middle. I mean, there is some consistency with the timing. For the most part, you kind of know roughly how if the flow of the draft, how often you're going to pick. But I feel like you get sniped a ton picking in the middle there on both ends. Whereas you can kind of, the reason I like the back end is because I can kind of be like, all right, I got 4 picks in front of me. Let me get 5 guys I want, and I know I'm going to have one of them. And that's kind of the way I approach it. Whereas sometimes in the middle of the rounds, because things can happen quickly at the end, because people have back-to-back picks, sometimes things move quickly. You don't have time to adapt. So able to get the rest of my roster up there on the screen there. After Demko in the 7th round, Mika Zibanejad, 8th round, certainly not bad there. He's fallen a little bit in drafts compared to last season. Didn't have the best playoff run, but certainly had a great regular season. Got my second defenseman in the 9th round, very luckily there. Then Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who kind of gets overlooked, but again, still part of that top 6 in Edmonton and the top power play unit, dual position availability. Lafreniere, a lot of Ranger fans and hoping he gets more power play time this year, gets pumped up to that top power play unit. If he does.
Yeah, I'll say this about Lafreniere. If I'm not getting Panarin or Zibanejad on offense, Lafreniere is the 3rd person on that list I'm going after, especially after how he played last season. If he can improve on what he did last year and be that number 1 draft pick that he came out as, I think that's a good value pick. He is going to be one of those good value picks out there.
And then after him, listen, Doughty and Sanderson as your 3rd and 4th defenseman, whatever, and then Travis Sanheim with the last pick there. It's sexy, no, but is it solid? Sure. And then Scheifele, another guy I think that gets overlooked a little bit in drafts, kind of falls, but I mean he's still going to be the top line center in Winnipeg. And you guys both have Winnipeg winning the division. So if I can get a top line center for a division winning team in round 14, sure.
That's a big drop for him to fall all the way to round 14, I think. I feel like he's better than that.
I just want some top power play minutes for Alexis Lafreniere. That's all I want for Christmas.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
And even if you don't give them to us till Christmas, there's still a lot of hockey season left after that to benefit from it. So it doesn't have to be out of the gate, but around Christmas time would be nice.
I would like top power play minutes off the rip, but to continue to get him late in drafts. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to soak everything up. You know what I mean? I want it all. I want my cake. I want to eat it. I don't want to make any compromises.
In the mocks I've been doing, Lafreniere kind of goes in that 9 to 11 range. He probably went a little late in this one, but I mean that's around the spot you're going to get him if you want him, or you have to take him if you want him, I should say.
But just some top line minutes would be nice. That's it. That's all I want.
Nothing maybe Trocheck, Panarin, Lafreniere is the top line now, and Riley Smith, Zibanejad, Kreider is now the second line.
It's just that he's on. I want him on the top power play unit specifically, of course, because on the second unit he's paired with Jacob Trouba, and that's not going to work for me. So, and he's paired with Capo Caco, and that's also not going to work for me. So,
yeah.
I want Alexis Lafreniere away from Jacob Trouba and closer to players like Adam Fox and Artemi Panarin.
See, the thing with Kako is they're trying not to make the mistake they made with Buchnevich, where like they let him walk because they didn't want to, pay him, and then he goes to St. Louis and he actually becomes the player that they were hoping him to be. They got bitten once, not going to get bitten twice. So hopefully Kako takes a step this year. But that's mock draft 7. We've put that one in the books. We've got 5 more to go, so we got a dozen all summer mock drafts for you guys everybody to look back on, use in preparation for your own drafts. We love doing this every Thursday. Gonna have mock drafts throughout. Before we wrap things up, do want to throw out there that we're going to be doing a Total Hockey Now Yahoo League here. So if you want into that league, give us an email at totalhockeynow@gmail.com. There it is. I knew I created a little banner for it and finally found it. There we go. So shoot an email to that. We've already got a few people in the league. We'll hopefully go to 12 teams if we can fill it up. Otherwise, we'll do 10. But if you want to partake, we're going to be doing that draft on Thursday, October 3rd. Time TBD, but shooting for that 8 o'clock Eastern range. So keep an eye out. Reach out if you want to partake in the first annual Total Hockey Now League. We'd love to have you.
As long as you don't snipe any of my players, you may stay and you may possibly return. But
we're getting what are the categories question. We're just going to do a standard head-to-head banger league. Let's get it.
What I'd like minus only, right?
Yeah, no, plus minus only. Yeah, nothing else matters. Just the plus minus. No, first year, what I like to do is get a league going, and then if I feel like we've got all right, most of these people are coming back, then we could start tweaking, settings and all that stuff. I like to just get a basic league going, and then we take it from there. We'll post all that. Like I said, shoot an email. We'll get all the info there.
It's the inaugural Total Hockey Now League, the first ever. Be a part of that.
We did a best ball one last year. This year we'll do an annual a redraft league. So
I think Chris killed us in both leagues, right? Didn't you won both leagues, Chris?
I definitely won the best ball one.
Yes,
that I know.
Well,
because of course, you know what I mean.
I don't know if you're gonna get it this year. We'll see. Now, Chris, you got the first Slapshot podcast. What do you got in that one, and what's coming up in the next one?
Yes, every Tuesday. So no excuses. Episode 67 is up at Slapshot Podcast, everywhere you get it, youtube.com/@slapshotpod. I said some mean things about the Oilers and the Senators. So if you want to get triggered again, you can go ahead and do that. You can also get the clips on TikTok, right? Slapshot Podcast. And what did I do? I placed 2 bets. And I just rambled for about an hour. That's basically what I did here, but by myself, and tried to trigger some people.
And you're pretty good at that. So and you're off and running. So get the rust off.
Somebody in the comments of this podcast told me to get lost, to go away. So I did. I went to where I usually hang out.
We sure are State of Survival. Like I said, shoot an email to totalhockeynow@gmail.com, and we'll get the invites and all that stuff going here. We'll be doing that one live on the air. That'll be the episode for the Thursday before the season begins. So looking forward to that. And Ant, you've got the Subway to Shea podcast going here with the Mets stretch run. Is my assessment accurate? They're not going to catch the. I mean, they're a half game out, but is it really the Braves and the Diamondbacks, and those are the wild card teams, right?
Yeah, and as many times as we win, those teams are winning as well right now, even with our 6-7 game winning streak that we have going on. So it's going to be a fight to the finish. We get to play the Braves, the second to last series, which is a 3-game set. So hopefully they're within like that half game. Like that's where you want to kind of be there. I think I finally found a home for the live podcasts every week. I think it's going to be Sundays at 9. That seems to get a lot of traction on, X and YouTube. So I'm going to be doing Sundays at 9. I'll have guests and stuff like that as we get ready for what I hope is the playoff run that's coming. But
is that 9 a.m.?
9 p.m. I'm sorry. Did I say a.m.?
No, you didn't. You just said 9 because I was like, man, that's that's quite a way to start your day. Sunday, 9 a.m. Right out. You had a good night's sleep, and then you listened to the Mets disappointment. At least at the end of the night,
Yeah, we can all sulk,
curl up in bed.
Yep. Anything that's bothering you, you come in, we talk about it. Chat's alive in there. Love the chat. So yeah, pretty much Sundays at 9 p.m.
9 p.m. Eastern time for Subway to Shea. The Padres being the other wild card team that I couldn't think of there a minute ago. And then, of course, Rip and Riff. Jared and I dropped a new episode yesterday to celebrate the kickoff of football season. It's all football packs. It's all football all episode long. So check that out. We go Peyton Manning rookie card chasing. So that was a nice way to open the season. I won't spoil it for you. Go check it out at Rip and Riff. So there you go. But that'll do it for this edition of Total Hockey Now. The Total Hockey Now YouTube channel. Like we said, give us a like, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff on YouTube, Twitter, /X/Facebook. But we'll be back with you next Thursday with another mock draft. And maybe we'll do top 10 fantasy left wings or right wings. We'll see what we feel like, but we'll be doing one of those next week. But for at Ant Rivera 86 and for at Fuzzy Chris 91, I am at Pucking Thoughts. We're going to be back with you next Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific with an all-new episode of Total Hockey Now. Thanks for watching.